Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Albany City Council meeting this Wednesday, April 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Smith?
Here.
Counselor Olson?
Here.
Counselor Novak?
Here.
Counselor Bartholomew?
Here.
Counselor Kopczynski?
Here.
Counselor Johnson? Here. Mayor Johnson II.
Here. The next on the agenda is a series of proclamations, and what I've done since becoming mayor is I've shared the wealth with my city councilors. They don't like hearing my voice the whole time, so I'm going to share that around. So Arbor Day will be brought to you by Counselor Novak.
Whereas Arbor Day was first observed in 1872 with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas Albany's urban trees grace our cities, streets, parks, and open spaces, provide shade and habitat for wildlife, improve air and water quality, increase property values and economic vitality in business areas, and contribute to a sense of community pride and ownership, and whereas through the cooperation of all residents of Albany, the benefits of tree plantings in our community and surrounding forest lands can be passed on as a vital natural resource to future generations, and whereas the City of Albany has been named a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 28 consecutive years in recognition of our stewardship of Albany's urban forest. Now, therefore, I, Alexander D. Johnson II, Mayor of the City of Albany, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in Albany, and encourage all citizens to take time to appreciate and care for Albany's urban forest and to participate in activities celebrating our community's commitment to trees. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Albany to be affixed this 27th day of April, 2022.
Thank you, Counselor. Now, Counselor Marilyn Smith will read the Drinking Water Week proclamation.
Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, and support for our economy and maintains the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety is in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend. Now, therefore, I, Alexander D. Johnson II, Mayor of the City of Albany, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1, 2022 as Drinking Water Week in Albany, and I call upon each citizen of our city to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water.
Thank you, Counselor Smith. And Mental Health Month will be brought to you by Counselor Stacey Bartholomew.
Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our community, and whereas with effective treatment, people with mental health conditions can lead full, productive lives, and whereas each business, school, government, agency, faith-based organization, healthcare provider, veterans group, and community member has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had profound impacts on the mental health of people of all ages, and now more than ever, it is critical to reduce the stigma that commonly prevents people struggling with mental health issues from seeking help. And whereas the Linn County Mental Health Advisory Board is emphasizing that there is no health without mental health by being involved with public service announcements, health fairs, public speakers, and various trainings regarding mental health issues. Now therefore, I, Alexander D. Johnson, the second mayor of the city of Albany, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Mental Health Month in Albany, Oregon. And I also call upon all residents, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Albany to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our residents can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Albany to be affixed the 27th day of April, 2022.
Then I will now read the Older Americans Month, May 2022. Whereas older Americans who have built resilience and strength over their lives through successes and difficulties richly contribute to Albany. Whereas Albany benefits when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are included in community activities and programs, are encouraged to share their stories of success and resilience. And whereas Albany is committed to supporting older adults as they take charge of their health, explore new opportunities and activities, and focus on independence. And whereas the city of Albany can enrich the lives of individuals of all ages by involving older adults in the redefinition of aging in our community, promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, encouraging older adults to speak up for themselves and others, providing opportunities for older adults to share their experiences. Now, therefore, I, Alexander D. Johnson II, Mayor of the City of Albany, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Older Americans Month in Albany, Oregon, and I encourage every resident to take time during this month to acknowledge older adults and the people who serve them as influential and vital parts of our community. In witness whereof, I hereto set my hand and cause the seal of Albany to be affixed this 27th day of April, 2022. Alexander D. Johnson, Mayor, the second Mayor. Now, Councilor Kopczynski is going to read support for Ukraine and condemnation of Russia's aggression.
Whereas Ukraine proclaimed its independence from the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, on August 24, 1991, and has been a fully independent country since December 1991, and whereas Ukraine adopted its constitution in 1996 and is a unitary republic led by a president elected by popular vote, and whereas Ukraine is home to nearly 44 million people, rich in natural resources, and a leader in agricultural production, and whereas on February 24, 2022, Russia launched an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, shattering a decades-long peace in Europe, and whereas the leadership of Russia has engaged in direct and intentional violation of human rights and should be held responsibility for the loss of life and loss of property resulting from this truly reprehensible act, and whereas these hostilities are complicating the evacuation of Ukrainian civilians and foreign citizens who lived in Ukraine to study, work, and learn alongside Ukrainians. Now, therefore, I, Alexander D. Johnson II, Mayor of the City of Albany, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the City of Albany, Oregon's support for Ukraine and condemnation of Russia's aggression. And that the City of Albany stands with all who are impacted by this illegal action, encourages the residents of Albany to donate time and resources to organizations supporting the Ukrainian people, and joins individuals, organizations, and communities across Oregon and the globe in condemning Russia's aggression. Our thoughts are with Ukraine, its citizens, and Ukrainian Americans. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of City of Albany to be affixed this 27th day of April, 2022.
Thank you, Councilor Kopczynski. Next on the agenda is business from the public. Persons wanting to provide comments may submit written comments and/or register to speak at the website address on the agenda before noon on the day of the meeting, or appear in person at the meeting and register to speak using the sign-up sheet. Thank you. So,
Thank you for this last proclamation.
thank you, Councilor. Thank you. So it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think we can get through that. I have 3 minutes. So who else? Oh, excuse me. Mr. Weaver is speaking on the 9th Vine Street easement. So I'm going to call Mr. Weaver first because he's the only one speaking on that topic. So, sir, you have 3 minutes, please.
Hello, I'm Damian Weaver. I live at 625 12th Avenue West. My property directly abuts the East Vine Street right-of-way, or road. I'm here today to express my deep misgivings over the council's recent decision to open up the Vine Street Road to public access, specifically the area running from 11th to 12th Avenue in which my home is situated. I contend that such a move will place undue financial and security burdens on the residents involved, of a detrimental impact on the natural environment, and needlessly consume public funds. Am I cutting in and out?
No, you're fine.
Following your meeting on March 21st, I received a letter notifying me that a significant portion of what I thought was my yard actually constituted an unauthorized encroachment into the Vine Street Road that adjoins my property, and that such encroachments as my children's play equipment, 3 large trees, and portions of my perimeter fence must be removed at my expense no later than the end of September. This came as a shock to me. I've owned my home for years, but it was built in 1922. I can't say how long the configuration of the yard has been such it includes the entirety of the Vine Street Road for that section, but it has been a very long time. The yard was fenced in by the original property owner, Wallace Eakin, who served in World War I, to give you a sense of the timeline, and worked at the Democrat Herald for many years. Trees planted in that section of the row stand over 40 feet tall. My back neighbor, who shares my situation, has been this way for at least 50 years, probably much longer. In other words, a precedent for a homeowner encroachment into the Vine Street Row is long established. One of the reasons I suspect this is so is that particular stretch of the Vine Street Row features with an embankment, a small hill about 3 feet tall, keep the floodwaters of the canal at bay. Convert this into a functional thoroughfare would require major work, the felling of very old tall trees and the backfilling of the slope in order to bring it up to a wide, even grade, then the building of a retaining wall. Meanwhile, my yard is completely exposed because I can't build a new property fence until all of that work is done. Raises significant security concerns for my children who play in the yard and our family dog. Not to mention, who's going to pay for all this? My question for the council is why, and why now? Why is it necessary to make such drastic changes to a configuration of my neighbor's property that has been in place for over half a century to compel us to cut down old stately trees and open up our yards at major expense of finances and labor, to do so when we are still just recovering from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic? We have less than 5 months to get this done. Council, I urge you to reconsider the matter, and if I had more time, I do have solutions to propose. Thank you.
Council, would you like to hear a couple solutions on this topic?
Yes.
Please. Huh? You did provide those in writing? If you provided them in writing, there's no need to discuss them here.
Yes, I put them
Okay.
in as well.
So thank you. We'll take it under advisement, and I will get with staff and recontact you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next on the agenda, I would like to see who all here is in opposition to fluoride. Come on.
Say it again. I don't think they heard you.
If you're in opposition to fluoride, please raise your hand. Those of you who signed up to speak, please raise your hand. That's it. 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 opposed. Okay. Yeah. Well, so I have a list of Glennis Bellamy. Did you sign up to speak? If you signed up to speak, please raise your hand. Oh, you did? I didn't see you. Okay, so what we're going to do is, because there's less people than I thought were going to be here tonight, we're going to do 3 minutes apiece, and then we're going to be a hard stop at 3 minutes, and then after that, We will then have the fluorization report by Scott LaRock. So I will start with those in opposition. We'll start with Susan Fox if she's here. Thank you. Who's that on TV? Just please just state your name. That's your Albany resident, no addresses. Okay.
My name is Susan Fox. I live in Millersburg.
Is the mic on?
I don't know. Is it push?
It was cutting out.
Let me have her check that, please.
Now it's green.
Pull it towards you.
Closer?
Yeah, a little bit closer.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Okay. So we're going to go introduce yourself and say you live in Albany, and then we'll get to start the clock.
Right. My name
Okay.
is Susan Fox. I live in Millersburg. I've been a medical transcriptionist for over 30 years and worked for many physicians. I was always in support of fluoride in the water until I started researching the harmful effects that it can have on not only babies, but teenagers and the elderly. I'm now against adding fluoride to our water because research has found that excessive and prolonged exposure to fluoride can lead to a bone disease known as skeletal fluorosis. Over many years, this can result in pain and damage to bones and joints. The bones become hardened and less elastic, increasing the risk of fractures. Consumption of too much fluoride, which happens over many years of fluoride in drinking water, leads to yellow or brown teeth. Fluoride not only affects bones and teeth, but it also impacts young children in the development of the brain. Exposure to fluoride before birth can lead to poor cognitive outcome in the future. A study published in JAMA Pediatrics has stated that adding fluoride to drinking water is potentially a toxic mistake. The research, which focused on mother-child pairs from 6 Canadian cities, found that high fluoride exposure during pregnancy was correlated with lower IQ scores among young children, especially boys. Research has shown there is a significant correlation between high blood pressure and water with too much fluoride. Fluoride alone will not cause seizures, but if you are already prone to seizures, too much consumption of fluoride can cause a life-threatening seizure. Exposure to prolonged fluorides can damage the thyroid gland, resulting in uncontrolled production of parathyroid hormone. This condition is known as hyperparathyroidism. The condition depletes calcium levels in bones and causes abnormal calcium concentrates in the blood. High doses of fluoride can actually damage people's teeth, according to the World Health Organization. And some research, much of it with animals, suggests that it's also tied to more serious side effects, including bone cancer and cognitive impairments. In part due to the controversy, more than 300 communities in North America have voted to end fluoridation programs over the last 20 years. Adding fluoride lowers the pH in our drinking water. Therefore, other chemicals must be added to bring the pH back up to standard levels. Most toothpaste, many fruits and vegetables, even oatmeal have fluoride. By adding it to our drinking water, I believe it's an overkill. In conclusion, by removing the fluoride from our drinking water, in the long run, we will be saving the city the cost of fluoride and added chemicals, along with ensuring clean and safe water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a letter that's in the packet you submitted to us. Thank you. Next is Matthew Prudell. Mr. Prudell, and tell us who you are, and that you're a citizen of Albany, and then we'll start the clock. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Matthew Prudell. I live in Albany. I'm sure all of you received multiple emails from me regarding this topic. Like many of you, I thought for many years that fluoride was good for all of our health until a friend of mine.
Pull it towards
Yep.
you. That's fine.
Until a friend of mine had a really expensive water filter in his house, and he said it was to get the fluoride out. So I started doing research on the fluoride. This led me down a road of understanding that fluoride is really not healthy for, in the water. And so I got some facts here that are all backed up by documentation. So fluoride is,
So, sir, excuse me, sir, are you going to read the whole packet? Because we
yeah, I'm just going to read you some punch points here.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
hopefully this will lead you to, I hope that you read some of the emails I've sent you.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much information, it's unbelievable. So fluoride is the only chemical added to the water for the purpose of a medical treatment. You know, we write chlorine to the water to treat the water from, bacteria and stuff to make it safe. The fluoride is actually added there as a medical treatment. The FDA classifies fluoride as a drug. So adding fluoride to the water would be considered unethical because in standard of practice for all medication, there needs to be informed consent for drugs. The fluoride goes to everyone regardless of age, health, or vulnerability. You can't determine how much fluoride someone is getting, so the dosage is off on depending whether you're a young child or an old person or what should be healthy for you, and it's not being determined by doctors. It's just how much water you drink, how much food you eat cook with water. People now receive fluoride in many other sources. I mean, fluoride is super available in toothpaste. I mean, pretty much everyone here probably brushes with fluoride toothpaste, and it is a topical treatment. It's not actually, there's no science to back up that says ingesting it. It's not a mineral. It's not a nutrient. So actually drinking it doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do. It's a topical treatment. So that's why it's in toothpaste. What else? The fluoride level in mother's milk is very low. It's 0.0004 ppmg or whatever, parts per million. And I think we run our water like 0.07 or something like that. And so it's much too high for babies. So babies are making formula and stuff like that with the fluoridated water. And like the other speaker said, it does lower IQ. And there's been many studies that show that actually people that have too much fluoride, their IQ is less. So it's hurting their levels of being able to, think. Fluoride does accumulate in the body. It's like lead. It doesn't just, get out of your system really quickly. There has never been a single randomized control trial demonstrate the fluoridation's effectiveness or safety. All right, I guess my time is up.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for all you sent in.
I'm hoping that you realize that this topic is, unless we all get educated on this, it's going to be hard for just to make a quick decision on this. And I hope that the council takes their time to really read up on it and figure out what they're doing. I feel that you guys have an opportunity to make a simple decision that could really affect the lives of everyone in Lynn County, which would be amazing for you guys to help the health and safety of all those people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Deb Merchant is next up. Good evening, Deb.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for your time. My name is Deb Merchant. I'm an Albany resident, Oregon born and raised. My professional career has been dedicated to supporting environmental nonprofit organizations based in Oregon. My letter last night was submitted as part of my testimony tonight. I first learned about the human health hazards of water fluoridation in 2008 from colleagues who work in water quality science. I was stunned and angered at the fact that I did not know my water was fluoridated and that fluoride was harmful to my health and my entire life. In addition to my written testimony submitted online, I want to express the fact that most Albany residents likely don't know that they're being forced to consume fluoride or that fluoride is harmful to their health. People must be given choice over their own food and water consumption that has direct impacts on their individual health. Water fluoridation attempts to forestall the development of one tiny cavity by filling up our entire lives inside and out with harmful chemicals. In the name of transparency, Albany residents must have the choice to address their own dental care by purchasing fluoride toothpaste and or receiving dental fluoride treatments and brushing 3 times a day. To willfully expose me and my Albany neighbors to harmful chemicals that I pay for through my water bill is just plain wrong. As your taxpayer, I and every Albany resident, we have the right to know what's in the water that we pay for and how that water impacts our health. I'm calling on the City of Albany to discontinue the use of fluoridated water and instead offer public forums that serve to educate and inform your taxpaying community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deb. We did read your letter. We have it in the packet. Next would be Glennis Bellamy. Am I pronouncing your name right? Oh, thank you. I was told not to mess up a woman's name, so just make sure I got it right. Thank you. Please let us know who you are and what area you feel is Albany resident, and then we'll start the clock.
Mr. Mayor and the members of the City Council, my name is Glennis Bellamy, and my official address is Albany, but I live in Millersburg. You have before you a 43-page research document by Dr. Paul Connett entitled 50 Reasons to Oppose Fluoridation, with over 100 references to support his research. I will focus on just a few of his findings in the short time I have and urge you to read the rest of this document before acting on this very important issue. I'm sure you are concerned about the health and welfare of our children, but did you know that the highest doses of fluoride are given to bottle-fed babies? Dental researchers urge parents to not use fluoridated water when reconstituting infant formula, but very few parents have been told about this, and even fewer know the dangers. According to the National Research Council, quote, "It is apparent that fluorides have the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain," end quote. This is some very far-reaching consequences, especially among bottle-fed babies and young children. Dr. Connett stated that, quote, "According to the CDC's national survey, African American and Mexican American children have significantly higher rates of dental fluorosis than white children. The recognition that minority children appear to be more vulnerable to the toxic effects of fluoride, combined with the fact that low-income families are less able to avoid drinking fluoridated water, has prompted prominent leaders of the environmental justice movement to oppose mandatory fluoridation in the state of Georgia. Andrew Young, a colleague of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and a former mayor of Atlanta, said the following, quote, "I am most deeply concerned for the poor families who have babies. If they cannot afford unfluoridated water for their baby's milk formula, do their babies not count? Of course they do. This is an issue of fairness, civil rights, and compassion. We must find better ways to prevent cavities," end quote. Dr. Connett stated, quote, "Minorities are not being warned about their vulnerabilities to fluoride. The CDC is not warning that African American and Mexican American children have higher rates of dental fluorosis than Caucasian children. This extra vulnerability may also extend to other toxic effects of fluoride. African Americans have higher rates of lactose intolerance, kidney problems, and diabetes, all of which may exacerbate fluoride's toxicity. Dr. Connell stated that fluoride in the water goes to everyone regardless of age, health, or vulnerability. The dose cannot be controlled because everyone drinks a different amount. Fluoride is the only chemical added to water for the purpose of medical treatment. With water fluoridation, we are allowing governments to do to whole communities what doctors cannot do to their own patients."
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next will be those members or committee members in support of fluoridation. Dr. Haggerty was Well, Dr. Haggerty's first up.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes. Can everyone back there hear him?
Yep, thank you. COVID arrived at our house this last week, and so I'm home recovering from that and keeping the council chambers away from exposure. Patrick Haggerty is my name. My practice is in Albany, Oregon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about fluoride. I was born and raised in Albany. I've been a dentist here for over 35 years, with the exception of 4 years where I was a professor at OHSU, working as the hospital director of the dental programs at OHSU. Tonight, I can talk about the chemistry of fluoride, how the fluoride ion replaces the calcium ion in hydroxyapatite, which is the base molecule of enamel, making it less soluble in acid, thus less susceptible to cavities. And this is all topically at the surface, whether it's toothpaste, water, a fluoride treatment in a dental office, wherever the fluoride is coming from. I could talk about the Fluoride Action Network and its executive director, Paul Conant. He's the source of most, if not all, of the negative fluoride material that has been delivered to you. This is one guy who goes around the world talking about the things that are in your packets, your council packets. The Fluoride Action Network is based in Binghamton, New York, which is a fluoridated city. Paul Conant led a group.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yep.
Sir, we listen to you.
Yes.
I'd appreciate, I'm not talking to you. I'd appreciate if you maintain quiet while someone else has the floor. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Haggerty.
Is based in Binghamton, New York, a fluoridated city. Conant led a group to put a ballot measure out to remove fluoride from the water. It failed 69-31, and this is in his own hometown. I can talk about the Chinese research papers that the Fluoride Action Network bases most of their claim of IQ reduction. Many have very questionable methodology, and some of them, it's the title of the paper that was used to claim toxicity, especially lowering of IQ. One study showed a relationship of fluoride and its reduction in IQ. What they don't tell you is that in that area of China where the samples were taken, peat moss is used to cook with. That's how they heat their cooking utensils. Peat concentrates fluoride. When it's burned and inhaled, highly toxic levels exist, and there are all kinds of problems from that. One is reduction in IQ. What you don't hear in that same study is that the control group, normal IQs, was a fluoridated city also in China. What I also want to talk about is the population that I work with, the special needs population. We take these folks to the operating room. You can tell when someone's in a group home with a well or in a community fluoridated city. It is stark, the difference in the amount of decay and the amount of problems that these folks have, that in the non-fluoridated area, that if they had that in their water, it would make a difference. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, doctor. I appreciate that. And next on the agenda, I'm going to call on Dr. Eddie Frothingham. Was it Framingham? Frothingham. Thank you very much, doctor.
Mayor, council members, I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Eddie Frothingham. I've been a pediatrician in Albany for 22 years, and I'm here representing all of Albany's pediatricians. First off, I appreciate Dr. Haggerty addressing the chemistry of fluoride. I would like to address dental decay. Our understanding of dental decay now is that, thank you, it contributes inexorably to chronic health problems, including an increased risk of dementia, stroke, heart disease, and many other adult problems. Dental decay causes a condition of continuous inflammation in the mouth and the continual showering in our bloodstream of bacteria, which accelerate aging. I'd also like to talk particularly about the impact of dental decay in children. The cost to the community of treating dental decay in children is staggering, since many children require general anesthesia for dental work. To remove fluoride and simply accept the increased rate of dental decay, which is obviously visible when you compare communities with fluoride in their water and communities without, is the epitome of being penny wise and pound foolish. I'd also like to refer to a few other illnesses. Vitamin A deficiency is the leading cause of preventable blindness worldwide. Vitamin D deficiency causes rickets, which we associate with Tiny Tim and Charles Dickens. We don't see this because we have vitamin A and D in our milk. Iodide deficiency causes a severe form of developmental delay, which used to be called cretinism. We don't see that because we put iodide in our salt. Niacin deficiency causes pellagra. Thiamine deficiency causes beriberi. These are illnesses that we learn about in medical school that, thank heavens, I've never seen. Deficient folic acid causes anemia, neurological disease, and deficiency of folic acid in pregnancy increases the rate of spina bifida. And riboflavin deficiency causes a whole bunch of other stuff. And we don't see these diseases anymore because we have niacin, thiamine, folic acid, and riboflavin in flour. The idea of adding small amounts of a substance to protect our health rather than relying on people individually to supplement themselves is well established in public health. This is why we don't see vitamin A deficiency blindness, we don't see rickets, we don't see pellagra, we don't see beriberi, we don't see iodide deficient cretinism. This is well established. I should also mention that vitamin A, vitamin D, iodine, and to a lesser degree, niacin, thiamine, and folic acid are all poisonous in very high doses. The dose makes the medicine. Thank you.
Thank you much, Doctor. Next is Joanne Miller. Support.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Joanne Miller. I'm a citizen of Albany, and I'm here to talk in favor of continuing our water fluoridation. So I won't read the testimony that I sent to you earlier, but I do want to hit on some of the important issues that were brought forward to you. As an African American, I was born and raised in Chicago until I was 14 years old. At that time, I lived in a city where the water was fluoridated. I had no tooth problems. We visited the dentist once a year because I was in a low-income community. The dentist came to our school. None of the students in my school had any dental issues. We were treated and given toothbrushes and toothpaste and continued with the water fluoridation without any cavities. I moved at the age of 14 to a state where the water was not fluoridated, and guess what? I started getting cavities. Me and my siblings, who never had cavities, no dental problems, as low-income African Americans in a community, were being treated for dental disease. I also question the research that indicates that it causes IQ problems. I hold a master's degree from Oregon State University. I also completed PhD courses where I was thinking about getting a PhD. I don't think I have an IQ problem as an African American who was exposed to fluoride and really had good dental health. I would like to really take a minute to really show that everybody has their opinion, and we both have a right to them, but we need to go with the science. We need to go with what we've seen happen. To me, I am one of those people you can look at and say, fluoride works. Fluoridation in the water works. So I would like to say that as a member of the Lynn Benton Lincoln Regional Oral Health Coalition, a member of the Oregon Oral Health Coalition, a member of the Oregon Funders Collaborative, and a member of our Oregon and Lynn Benton Lincoln County Oral Health Coalition, I support you continuing to fluoridate the water in the city of Albany. It'll benefit our community. It'll benefit everyone. Don't let race, ethnicity, gender, or age influence the decision you make. I'm a prime example of a 65-year-old person that's still alive, still with an IQ, still with their teeth from water fluoridation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. So I'd like to thank everyone that spoke tonight on behalf or against water fluoridation. It's a sensitive topic, but I do appreciate the discussion, or at least the input coming in. Next on the agenda are staff reports. First up, go figure, it's Fluoridation of Drinking Water by Scott LaRock, pages 9 through 27 of your packet.
Evening, Council. My name is Scott LaRock. I'm the water superintendent for the city. So I'm here to talk to you about fluoride in our drinking water. Fluoride is something that can be found naturally in surface and groundwater. Usually, if it's there, it's in low concentrations. And Albany has been fluoridating our water, or adding fluoride to the drinking water, since 1968. This is an optional treatment. It's not something that's required, but it is something that is actively promoted by Oregon Health Authority, the CDC, U.S. Department of Health, among others. The purpose for it is for improved community dental health. And water providers that do choose to fluoridate their water have several rules and regulations that we need to follow to make sure that we're doing it legally and safely. Some of these things would include continuously monitoring the drinking water as we're producing it for the residual, pulling daily samples and testing them, and reporting those numbers to the state monthly. We also get tested by the state ever so often by providing them a split sample where they run the residual and test it against what our tests produce to make sure that we're measuring it accurately. The chemical we use is to fluoridate is sodium fluorosilicate. As required by state law, any chemical that we use in treating drinking water has to be NSF or ANSI 60 certified. It basically means that it is certified to be safe. And that is our standard for any kind of, when we're procuring chemicals, we make sure that it has that certification rating. As far as pH is concerned, the water that we pull in from the South San Em to both of our treatment facilities has a pH that's less than, well, it's usually slightly acidic. I would say about 6.7. And in order to send water out into our distribution system, we have to raise the pH of the water to 7.8. We do this by adding soda ash, which is it's sodium bicarbonate, but it's something similar to baking soda. The addition of that, we have to add more, or sodium hydroxide, I should say. When we add fluoride, it does bring the pH of the water down slightly, so we have to add a little bit more of those in order to get the pH high enough to send to our distribution system. But either way, we have to add those chemicals in order to raise the pH high enough to send out. Albany targets a dose of 0.7 milligrams per liter for fluoride. That's the recommended dose by OHA, the CDC, U.S. Department of Health, et cetera. For comparison, for our chlorine target dose leaving the plant is about 1 milligram per liter. So it's slightly less than that. As far as the cost, every year we, in an average year, kind of varies a little bit based off the production and the weather. But we can count on spending about $25,000 in consumables to effectively dose and monitor fluoride in the water system. There is some time considerations with that too. Every day, like I said, the staff has to test a sample from each facility. That test takes about 5 minutes to accomplish. And then every 2 to 3 days, they have to go through and fill up a hopper which we take the sodium fluorosilicate and empty 50-pound bags into that hopper. That takes about 15 minutes every, like I said, 2 to 3 days. From a safety aspect, or when we do handle that material, it comes in a powder form. The powder is hazardous to breathe, so our staff have to wear a respirator when they are dumping those bags into that hopper. This isn't something I would say is like a unique safety hazard. It is, they have to wear respirators when they're handling other chemicals in the plant or performing other tasks. So, but it is an additional hazard that they do face in handling that chemical. So from a citizen viewpoint, if somebody doesn't want to drink fluoride or doesn't want it in their water, they can remove it with an in-home reverse osmosis filter system. These can be purchased at most hardware stores. They're widely available. The average cost of those is about $200. It kind of depends on, it's a cartridge system. So depending on the number of cartridges and the features you want, but you do have to swap those cartridges out additionally as time goes on or as you use them. The other option would be to purchase filtered water. We have a couple businesses in town that supply that, and you can even potentially have them add minerals to it if you want that too. From a regulatory aspect, if council does vote to remove fluoride or to stop fluoridation, that can be easily accomplished by an email to OHA, just telling them we wish to discontinue and give them the date, because it is, like I said, an optional treatment, very easy to stop. That would not be staff's preference because there are a couple of things to consider. For example, we have a lot of fluoride on hand. We usually keep a pallet or two of it at the plants. That's not something that we can return to the supplier and get a refund on. We would likely be disposing of that by giving it to another community that does fluoridate. We also would have equipment that we would need to clean out. So our staff's recommendation would ask that if it is voted to be discontinued, it'd be sometime in the future. That way we can exhaust our existing supply. The other thing to consider is the city of Millersburg. The Albany-Millersburg Water Treatment Plant supplies most of our drinking water to the city. It also supplies drinking water to the city of Millersburg. And if we discontinue fluoridation at the AM water treatment plant, it will also impact Millersburg by not supplying them with fluoridated water. And they recently had a discussion at their council because they were aware that we were going to be discussing this here tonight, and directed their staff to send a memo, which was attached to this, basically stating that they wish to continue receiving fluoridated water. So if we were to discontinue, we would need to, the only option would be to, if they wanted it, well, they do. What would need to happen, I should say, is installation of a fluoridation station on their drinking water main line supplying Millersburg. That's not something that exists. It's infrastructure that have to be designed and built, and we would need to negotiate with Millersburg because it would take time to establish that. Our existing IGA with Millersburg for the treatment plant operation and the cost sharing doesn't address fluoride, and Millersburg bought into that system. They helped build it, and they also paid for the fluoridation equipment that was going in up there with the understanding it would be used to supply them with fluoridated water. So from our perspective, I think likely Albany would be on the hook to install that fluoridation station, and we would have to negotiate those costs and negotiate the costs of operating it as well.
So is that information in the memo? I think it is.
It is. It's in the last paragraph before
I think
budget impact.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any questions, council?
Do you want to tell us why we add chlorine to the water?
We add chlorine to the water to prevent bacteria from and viruses from being able to.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm wondering, I've forgotten which diseases it is that people tend to get from drinking water
That's unchlorinated. Well, you could get Legionnaires, Giardia, E. coli is the big one that we test for regularly.
okay.
Thank you for your testimony or your report. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is U.S. Army Corps of, yes.
I do have a comment, if
Well, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. I also understand what you had said in the report about Millersburg Council saying that they were still interested in fluoridating their water. My understanding is that Millersburg has information now that they didn't have prior to your approaching them and discussing with them whether they want to keep fluoride in their water. As you've seen this evening, there are a few people who live in Millersburg and take part in this water share situation that we have who are very much opposed to the fluoridation of their water supply. And this is a huge issue. I would like to submit to you all, and forgive me, I don't want to, I want to be as concise as possible. So I'm just going to read the tail end of something that I'd prepared.
Excuse me,
earlier.
this is not a time for you to testify.
It's not testifying, sir.
You-
It has
it-
to do with that. I just wanted to, well, then I'll just say this other thought, finish the thought with regard to Millersburg. They have information that has been given to their city manager to be submitted to the mayor for potential submission to their council, which may cause them to rethink whether they want to keep fluoride in their water. This information was not available to them prior to your approaching them on April 12th and just having that discussion about their keeping water,
So,
fluoride
Councilor
in their
Novak,
water.
I actually met with the mayor and city manager of Millersburg last Monday. Monday just passed. They sent us a
This Monday?
Just past Monday at City Hall, at Chamber of Commerce. They support fluoridation. It's in the report. It's in the packet. Their letter's in there.
That was a letter from April 12th, sir. At the time of that letter, they hadn't received this additional information.
But I also sat down with them Monday, which is after April 12th, and they reaffirmed that at that meeting.
Okay, well, I think that this is a really big issue, and I would hope that we could discuss it further with maybe people from both sides of the issue presenting information so that both councils perhaps could ask questions of experts, actual experts. I
Their
think that-
actual experts did testify tonight.
There are some, yes, that giving their professional opinions, and I appreciate that. I'm just saying this is a really big issue with lots of information on both sides, and I would hope that we would not be in a rush, as someone said earlier, to make a decision, but that we could,
This decision was made in 1968.
yes, sir, and at that
So
time, they
at
said
this-
DDT was good for you, and a lot of
So,
things.
Councilor Novak, we're
Yes,
moving
sir.
on. Thank you.
Okay.
U.S. Army, thank you, Scott. Next on the agenda is U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
You can't get rid of me yet.
Are you doing that one too?
Yeah.
I gotta get back to my agenda. License to occupy, Scott LaRock.
So what you have in front of you is a license to occupy with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We also have 2 employees of the Army Corps of Engineers online. One's on the phone and one's online. Fenton and Joel, for any questions regarding this agreement. But the City of Albany owns and operates a small dam on the South Santiam River. It's in between Lebanon and Waterloo, and we use it to control the level of the river right at the intake of the Albany Canal. So what the Army Corps of Engineers would like to do is be able to install some fish counting antennas on the fish ladder there. These antennas are, like I said, take up a small footprint. They require a small amount of power, and they would like to be able to have this equipment installed at the site for a period of 3 years. We've done similar agreements with ODF and W for similar monitoring at the site in the past, albeit it was for a shorter period of time. And basically, the Corps would install them. They would be responsible for them. It would be their equipment to operate, and they would reimburse us for the small amount of power that they would use. Looking for an agreement from, or an okay from council for Chris to sign this agreement that's attached.
Council, any questions for Mr. LaRock? Councilor Kopsinski?
I move that we authorize the approval of the license to occupy at the Lebanon Dam.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you for your presentations this evening. Award of a contract for ST 22-04.
Your Honor, can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry.
Are we going to talk about this fluoride situation
Doing business from the council, yes.
at the end of the meeting?
Yes.
So do the people in the audience realize that we are going to talk about it some more?
The council will bring their business from the council.
And I'm wondering why we really need to wait till the very end to do that, seeing as how it's on the agenda here.
Well, I'm moving down the agenda expeditiously, and we'll get back to it.
Well, I'm just wondering for future reference, why do we stick it at the end rather than talking about it when it's on the agenda now?
Well, we've had testimony, right? And we're
Yeah.
going to talk about it during our time with the council.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Seems like it's a good time to discuss it.
Thank you. Award of a contract for ST 22-04. Uh-oh.
I know we try to be as opaque as possible, but I wish we could get away from that.
So, Stacey Barcastro, thank you. I lost my agenda. I'll go here. I have it here. ST 24 Chicago Street, infill, Nolan Nelson and Stacey Barcastro. You by yourself this evening?
I am. Yep.
Thank you.
So good evening, Mayor and Councilor. What you have before you is staff's recommending council by motion award a contract to Jelco Construction. They're out of Salem, Oregon, and submitted a bid for $205,000 for construction of the Chicago Street infill project. The Chicago Street infill project includes about 100 feet of street, water, sewer, and storm improvements. They will close a gap between Columbus Street and Chicago Street. Currently, the right-of-way is undeveloped in this area. Construction of these improvements will loop the water line. There's 2 adjacent properties that once the public improvements are constructed, if they so choose, they would be able to connect to the improvements. And when they do that, they would be charged connection fees. And based on current rates, that would be about $39,000 that would reimburse the associated water, sewer, street, and storm funds.
Councilor Smith has a question.
A question and a compliment. I'm thrilled that this is happening. That's been a gap in the street connectivity in my neighborhood as long as I've lived there. Sorry.
Microphone.
Now, Hasso can hear me. I am thrilled that this is happening because it connects a gap that's been in the street system in my neighborhood for as long as I've lived there. I had a question about the price. $205,000 for all this work sounds really cheap to me. How did you get a bid like that?
Well, it's a small project. It's only 100 feet in length. The other thing staff did is we are giving the contractor, in the contract, we provided a lot of flexibility. We estimate the construction window is going to be 45 days, but we're allowing the contractor to schedule that window anytime between contract award and next June. And so I think by providing that flexibility, it helps.
Thanks.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? Councilor Johnson?
Hi, Stacey. This is probably a silly question, and I think I know the answer, but 100 feet of street, and there's 250 feet of water line. So does that mean because there's on both sides with the extensions?
Well, there's, the gap is 100 feet, but the water and sewer that needs to be constructed is actually longer. And so that's why the length is more.
Okay, so will there be more construction on the road, more digging up then for the 250?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Does that go to the south?
Yes,
Yeah.
to the south. Mhm.
Any other questions, council? Councilor Kopczynski?
I move that we approve by motion the contract in the amount of $205,000 to Gulco Construction of Salem, Oregon.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you for your presentation. Next is a managing Oregon resources efficiently intergovernmental agreement with Kristen Preston. Yeah, page 38 to 43 in your packet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So what you have tonight is a statewide intergovernmental agreement with called Managing Oregon Resources Efficiently, which is known as the MORE IGA. This agreement allows public agencies like counties and cities like us and other types of agencies to obtain services from each other and share resources and equipment more efficiently. This agreement streamlines the process to just one agreement with over 100 other participating agencies in the state, and it can be used for both routine and emergency situations. So if you have a need for a specialized piece of equipment or a project, and with a member agency that has that equipment and they're able to loan it to you, so you can use this agreement to rent them the equipment and pay for its use. Or you can pay that agency to perform the work with that specialized equipment or other work you don't currently have the staffing expertise to accomplish. So this agreement is outlined, is included in your packet, the terms and responsibilities of the provider and the user of that resource, and allows the direct billing between the two parties. This agreement has no expiration date, no financial caps, and does not have a cost associated with joining. The MORE program, and there's a resource website where people can share their needs online, and that's managed by the Marion County Public Works Department. So for Albany, there's not a current project or current need that's prompting us to join this right now, but participating in this IGA will facilitate cooperative work between other agencies and provide the city an increased access to other statewide resources. This agreement doesn't take the place of other mutual aid agreements that we currently have. It's just an additional resource for us. So the agreement and the resolution is attached in your packet, and I can take any questions.
Thank you. Council, questions for, please?
Just a comment. This,
Yeah.
I love this idea. This is something that's been talked about in this chamber and other government agencies for years. The neighbors have something that we need. They're not using it right now. We need it. We can borrow it. It's like borrowing a cup of sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a really good idea, very efficient use of resources and public funds for everybody involved. How did you stumble on this?
Actually, Lynn County Public Works, they belong and suggested that we join too. And Corvallis is a member. I think all the counties are. So it's been around a while. We just haven't joined yet, and now's the time.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, council? Councilor Olson?
Have there been rules against borrowing stuff from some other entity in the past? Or have we been able to do that in the past?
Yeah, I think we have, there's no rules against it. This just is a streamlined process that's allowed by rule to have one IGA from multiple agencies.
Yeah.
And I think we do sometimes share equipment just sort of casually, but this is a more formal, if you need something for a longer period of time, you probably want to charge for it.
Well, I think it's a good idea to have a kind of a definition of who's in the club and who gets to borrow back and forth.
Right.
Yeah, good idea.
So I have one question. Is this in perpetuity?
Yeah, it doesn't expire.
So can a member withdraw from it?
Sure, you can withdraw anytime.
Okay, that's all. I wanted to know that, so everybody knew that. All right, council?
I move we approve this idea.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Next on the agenda is adoption of the consent calendar.
I move the adoption of the consent calendar as written.
Pardon me, I do have one exception.
Go ahead.
And I say this with all due respect and much love in my heart for staff. I understand that, when we speak at the end of a meeting, sometimes we can say paragraphs, and you can't put a full paragraph in when you're noting what a counselor said. But I think perhaps entirely unintentionally, the words as they appear on page 46 with regard to the March 9th minutes, if I may, it says, Counselor Matilda Novak referred to a letter about fluoridation she sent to the council. She would like the council to act to stop fluoridation of city water, all good. She said not adding fluoride would save staff time, which is true. You noted that in Mr. LaRoque's report, but it also says, and lower personnel costs, as well as take chemicals out of the water. Well, the issue that I take here is lower personnel costs. That was in regard to the first part of my statement at the end of business of the council, which was on a completely separate issue. We were discussing Republic Services and their need to raise their rates. Councillor Johnson had brought it up, and then Councillor Olson made a comment, and then I commented on that. So just the way that this is in there, it makes it sound as if I'm saying that if we take fluoride out of the water, then, for instance, Chuck Leffler would no longer be needed in his position at the city. And that's not at all the way this conversation played out. I did listen to it again. So my request is if we could alter that statement and be a little bit more clarifying so that my comments are a little more in context. If that could happen, I'd really appreciate it.
Counselor, the clerk will review the minutes and the recording and make sure that they align.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Novak. Is that it? Okay. Any other questions here for the consent calendar? We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion. All those opposed say no.
So are we removing that?
We're going to make
statement
she can
by
make the adjustment.
Counselor Novak?
She's going to
We're
adjust
bring
it,
back
which I greatly appreciate.
At our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll approve that. Yes.
So you're going to bring back the amendments to the next meeting, correct?
Allison, if you'd turn your mic on.
We can certainly bring them back to the next meeting if you'd like to review them again, but we could also make the adjustments needed and go ahead and process them and archive them.
That's up. Councilor Novak, are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable. I would like to see how you change it, if that's okay. Thank you.
We will do that.
Because it is public record and it's my words, and thank you.
I understand. I understand.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I do. Next up is business from the council. I will start with our colleague in person now, Councilor Bessie Johnson.
I can think of it at home.
Well, it's really good. It's really good to see you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I don't think I have anything right now. I didn't expect to be done this quick, so I will. When are we going to discuss the fluoride thing? Because
We can talk about it now.
Okay, I just want to make a comment that Ms. Miller really, what she said to me is how I feel. I mean, we've been on well water for 22 years plus, and to tell you the truth, we've got some of the stuff that people get when they use fluoride. So I don't think the science is, you can look at it in different ways. And I just think it's a good thing, anything we can do to help our kids, help with their dental issues and stuff, I think it's a good thing. So I would be in favor of keeping the fluoride, and also because of our agreement with Millersburg, it's not just us. And so that would really be an expense. And I just think that it's a good thing to have. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Bartholomew.
Thank you. I, along with Counselor Smith, visited our composting facility last week, and it was really great to see what we are doing. And I'm so excited that we are going to be having 25% of our solids not going to the landfill and being used appropriately in fertilizing fields, farms here in the county, and also that we are, in the future expanding up to 50%. And I think that's the big part is that we are recycling our waste, but also extending the life of our landfill, because that's quite a bit that we are putting in. What was it? 10 tons a day, a week, or something like that. She can correct me, but yes. So that's a significant savings, and so I appreciate how we are helping our environment in that way.
Thank you, Councilor Bartholomew. Councilor Olson?
Oh, yes, I noticed one of my constituents came in, and I think he might have been here at 4 o'clock and be able to sign up and ask to be able to comment on the canal situation. And I'm wondering, can we give a person who can't get here on time a chance to talk about an issue that he is concerned about?
This is your time.
Oh, it's not me, it's my constituent.
Council, do you want to hear from this gentleman?
And I'm wondering
Sure.
if my constituent would like to talk about the
No, he didn't
canal
say-
situation, if the council will approve.
Council, you approve?
I approve.
Please join us. Please let us know who you are. You have 3 minutes. You are a resident, correct?
Yes, I
He
am.
lives along the
Okay.
canal, yes.
Okay.
yes.
So my name is Dan Freeman, and I live on 8th Street, and I have the Vine Street Canal.
Can you get a little
Hey,
closer
need
to the
get
mic?
up closer
Yeah, we
to
have,
these darn
the
things.
mic system is very
I'll start
sensitive.
over. So my name is Dan Freeman, and I live on 8th Street at the crossroads of what would be called abandoned 8th Street track and Vine Street in my backyard. And I have received a letter from the city last week
No closer, please.
stating that I needed to vacate my property from the public right-of-way, which was odd because I have a erected 6-foot chain link fence that separates the Vine Street right-of-way from the canal, and so there's nothing in that right-of-way. But what was interesting to me is I went and I looked into this a little bit, and there are about 6 properties that the owners, and I won't say the owners, but in the past have their personal possessions in the right-of-way. And these are things like motorhomes and tents, and in one case, structures. There's also a lot of trees and things. And all of the properties I looked at, 6, they all had a common theme, and that was that they had a fence going across Vine Street. And that's really what I'd like to talk about a little bit, in that those areas of Vine Street have been left abandoned over the years. And I can tell you personally that Vine Street is a magnet for illicit activity, the 2 a.m. activity. And I'm not going to talk about all the stories, but people coming into people's backyards and hanging out on their patios at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's a gunfight back in the late 2000s or 2010-ish time frame. Ended up in the Vine Street Canal, those kind of things. And so I can see where the residents, and I guess I'm defending them, I don't see them here tonight, but I can see why they would put up gates and things. I went and met with the city engineer, Stacy Bell Castro, and we discussed this. And one of the things that became a little bit ironic for me is the very right-of-way that I was accused of is actually adjacent to the Greater Albany District 8 school parking lot, which is blocked which is blocked, the right-of-way is blocked by parking spaces. So the very thing that my property was accused of, the city is actually responsible for. If you go on and you look at security and fencing, everybody knows about the water plant and the fenced area in the public right-of-way between 3rd and 4th Avenue. And so the public has commandeered that area and made it secure. And I agree with that. I agree that they should have security around the water plant. But I want you to realize that in these areas where you can't secure them and there hasn't been any kind of improvements made in Vine Street, it would be a natural thing for the property owners to put gates and fences across there. And I would encourage you to go look at them. I know you've made a ruling. I would encourage you to go look at them, because I think it might be just a little hypocritical to be so judgmental. The other thing I'd like you to consider is there's many established trees in the greenways. Many of them look to be, you go down to 12th Street, 20, 30 years old. So nobody's really cared about this situation. And so that's really what I wanted to tell you. And I think you really should consider evaluating your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. What was your name again, sir?
Dan Freeman.
Dan Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You still your floor.
Oh, no, that's it.
Is that okay? Thank you. Councilor Smith?
I'll save my time for discussing fluoride.
Okay. Councilor Kopczynski?
Nothing.
Councilor Novak?
I guess I would say the same if we're going to have a discussion.
We're discussing it now.
Yeah.
So fire away.
Okay.
But please be respectful of other folks, their time as well, okay?
Yes, sir. Why don't you start with other folks and I'll go last?
You sure? Your turn.
No, sir. I'll yield to anyone who wants to speak first so that there are no issues with me hindering anyone else from having their time.
Kopczynski?
I'm voting not to remove fluoride.
I didn't know we were having a vote. I
He's
didn't.
stating his position, that's all he's
Okay.
doing. I think it's your time.
Well,
Counselor
Oh, you
Smith
have
said,
time?
okay. Counselor Olson.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I thought Dr. Haggerty's comments were interesting and appropriate. That most of the anti-fluoride stuff, Hasso's saying he can't hear me, so am I doing better, Hasso? Okay. Well, I guess a little bit's better than nothing. That most of the complaints about fluoride come from that one source. And I found that interesting. I did a little bit of looking around, and I didn't spend much time doing it, but I was surprised that I couldn't find anything about the places in this country where there's a considerable amount of fluoride in the natural water. And the people there just don't seem to have any tooth decay. And I am surprised that if there is considerable fluoride in the drinking water in that part of the country, that there aren't other health problems that people seem to worry about in that part of the country. Other than discolored teeth. And I worked at the Bureau with a guy that came from Arkansas. His family was driven out by the dust storms in the 30s. And he had nice brown teeth, but he had zero tooth decay. And we discussed that a little bit. And I'd like to say, too, that I and my family are a very small bit of research into tooth decay. My father had lost all his teeth in his middle 40s. And I, as a child, went to the dentist on a regular basis. and enjoyed the heavy-duty drilling with the old-time dental equipment with the pulleys and the belts that go around and the low-speed heavy-duty drill. And I lost a couple of baby teeth to tooth decay. And when I moved to Corvallis to go to graduate school, my tooth decay seemed to stop. And I don't know if it was had to do to exposure to the higher learning in Corvallis, or if it had to do with the fluoride. But I'm supposing it had to do with fluoride in the drinking water. And I still have a couple of molars that work, but if I come to my kids, my son Jerry, who is now in his 60s, has one tiny bit of decay in one tooth. And my daughter, Rachel, she has 0 tooth decay. And I think it's fluoride in the drinking water and fluoride in her mother's bodily fluids as she was being developed. And I think that we ought to keep track of research that has to do with health problems that might be involved with fluoride. But I am certainly not in favor of discontinuing fluoridating our water at this point. I think we need to keep track of it, but I think we, for the sake of the dental health of our children and ourselves, we are far better off to have fluoride in our drinking water.
Good, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. And either one of you counselors like to go?
Counselor Smith?
Counselor
Yeah.
Novak? I'm going last.
Okay. Then I want to refer to information from the report where Mr. LaRoque mentioned that the 50-pound bags of fluorosilicate are toxic enough that the person who dumps them into the hopper once a month needs to wear a respirator. And I question, just being reasonable, if it's not safe to breathe, how is it safe for me to drink, much less take in through my skin in a shower or a bath? And I also have a question for Mr. LaRoque, if he could answer, in the event that some of this material is accidentally spilled on the ground, can you just sweep it up and throw it in the trash?
If we spilled some of that material, we would likely sweep it up and then refer to the SDS on how to dispose of it properly.
May I ask the method for proper disposition of this substance?
Offhand, I don't know.
I would submit to you that it would eat through your trash can. I believe that it is so toxic that you can't just sweep it into the trash bin. Again, this is a huge subject. I had no idea when I first brought it up that it would cause such strong feelings on both sides. I grew up brushing my teeth with Crest. One of my friends in LA at my theater company was one of the original Crest kids, telling you about how she brushes with Crest and it's all good and fluoride is wonderful. I grew up using Crest, getting fluoride treatments, believing in the wonders of modern medicine. At that time, I didn't know that it was classified by the FDA as a drug. I might have reconsidered even as a young adult had I known that. I've since come to learn, especially since early March, when I sincerely started looking into this issue. And I know that I have somewhat inundated my fellow counselors with a world of information here, a wealth of information. To Dr. Haggerty, I would say I didn't come across a single study referencing peat moss and China being the source of the lowered IQ. I didn't see that anywhere. What I have seen was a Canadian study that I asked everyone else to take a look at. It was a 23-minute, there was a Dr. Till, Christine Till, talking about the effects on the unborn, on developing babies and young children, and they tracked these people over at least a decade, if not two. I believe the study is even ongoing. So, ever since 2006, there have been major studies on the harmful effects of this substance. I know that I am one vote, and there are 7 of us, and I know what may well play out here. But if nothing else, I plead with you to give this some serious thought. In 1968, when Albany decided by a move of the council to fluoridate our water, DDT, which I mentioned earlier, DES, asbestos, and leaded gas were all determined to be perfectly safe by our government. But science doesn't stand still, and neither should we. Hundreds of high-quality studies done since then have found that it can't be confirmed safe. In fact, they've provided significant evidence that it's harmful to a lot of people. This is my opinion. It's based on hours of research and the opinions of many scientists, physicians, dentists, health ministries of nations all over the world. You may not feel the same, and many of you have said that you don't. I would ask and recommend that we bring in 1 or 2 experts on both sides of this issue to make short presentations to the council and give us a chance to ask questions. I know you've heard from some people, but as I said, this is a huge issue. I'd like to see more information given to us. This is the health of the people who live in Albany and Millersburg.
Thank you. Your passion is noted. We've read every document you sent us and watched the videos. But everything you're telling us has been submitted in the packet. So are you going to continue more or going to do something new?
I don't think I have anything more to say right now. No, I've said everything that I can say. I could read you quotes from experts, but you have heard the experts that you want to hear, and I don't feel as though there's anything more I can add at this time.
Thank you. Councilor Smith?
I just had one response to the video with Dr. Till. The slides that she displayed in her presentation about the study of children with lower IQs showed studies in Canada and studies in China and Iran on the same slide. So that's where I found that.
Thank you, Scott, Mr. Rock, appreciate it. So, since I'm going last, I had a great day today. I was a part of a team that selected with First Story in a partnership with Hayden Homes, and one of our residents I handed her the keys to a house today. And First Story and Hayden have done a great job, and they've given away several houses in Albany. The process is fantastic. And they've given over 100 homes away to people that are in distress situations, recovering alcoholics, mothers in distress, single moms. And I can't tell you how honored I was to award this young lady a home. I'm lucky, like a lot of us. I was able to buy my first home when I was a young man, 19 years old. But to see the face of the parents, the young woman and her son, they popped a balloon and the keys came out. I cried. I teared up. I'm 57 years old in June, but I haven't felt like that since the day I got married. It was a wonderful feeling, and I just want to share that with you. And next on the agenda, get all misty-eyed. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
could I ask you? I've never heard of this before, and I just wondered.
So First Story is a nonprofit that's been in business about 22 years.
Okay.
And they've given away, literally, you have to qualify for the mortgage, but you go through a process of interviews and qualifications. And they've given over 100 families a home. And they've given several away in the city of Albany. and it's pretty exciting to be part of that process. And I can't tell you what an honor it was to be of service to that process. Yeah. And I will send the link to the city clerk or the city manager so you can get it out to you. Next on the report is, by the way, I'm for keeping the fluoridation because I have 3 dentists in my family, and all of them threaten me. So I'm just joking. But next on the agenda is the city manager's report. So thank you for being back in town today.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things for you all tonight. Behind the window over there is Kinsey McIntosh, and she is just one of our administrative professionals. We have admin professionals in each of our departments, and today is Administrative Professionals Day. So I wanted to recognize her and all the folks who provide that support. And you see Matt Harrington clapping back there.
Thank you, Allison.
You mentioned that I'm back here. I had an opportunity on Thursday and Friday. Thank you very much, Council, for letting me attend the League of Oregon Cities Spring Conference. That was a wonderful opportunity to attend breakout sessions on housing solutions, on SDCs, on recruiting and retention in the municipal sector, and also to meet quite a few state legislators and counselors and managers from other cities. And I'm hoping that I can convince a good number of you to attend the annual conference in Bend in October, first week in October.
I thought it was in Newport.
It's in Bend this year.
Oh, it's the mayor's conference. Okay.
It's good to see you all on the dais for the first time in a long time. And the last thing is something that, we were all very affected by the events of Friday night, and my prayers are with all of those people who've been devastated by that horrible incident. But I do want to take the opportunity to recognize in our police department, Sergeant Mike Wood, Officer Aaron Bagley, and Officer Brett Adams. And it was Officer Adams that made a traffic stop in the very early hours of the morning and kept following his instincts, well-developed instincts, that something wasn't quite right, and following up on his instincts. And I can't say this with any certainty, but I think there's a good chance that he may have saved, by doing so, he may have saved quite a few other people's lives. So I wanted to commend all of those police officers and, again, tell you that my prayers are with the family and all of those that are impacted. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you. I would like to make one statement before we go to executive session. I want to congratulate Chief Harnden. She swore in 4 police officers the other day, and I'm solely impressed with our police department ability to attract talented folks to come serve our city and protect us. So thank you, Chief, and your team. Okay, let me get back to you.
Could I comment?
Yes.
I'd like to comment on the Vine Street situation. And I'm thinking we're coming down a little heavy on people who have taken advantage of our right-of-way there, some knowing they were doing it, and some not knowing they were doing it. And I'm thinking maybe September is a little early to have everything off of that right-of-way. And I hope we can give people that are taking advantage of it a little slack if they're having trouble getting stuff moved off. However, I do think we need to make sure that people know and that we do keep control of that right-of-way. One of the projects that I really was hoping we could do with our urban renewal project 20 years ago when we instituted it was to make the Vine Street Canal something of an attraction to Albany and be able to get rid of those ugly fences. And back when I first got on the council, the canal belonged to PP&L. And a guy named Hank Hurlbert was the executive who was in charge of the waterworks there and the canal. And I asked him one time, Hank, why do we have to have those ugly fences on the canal? There's a perfectly good strainer there at the end that'll catch anybody that falls in or whatever. And he said, those fences are there not to keep people safe. Those fences are there to protect our canal. So anyway, I would hope that we are not too heavy-handed when we encourage people to move their stuff off of there. And I'm glad that we're going to put down a gravel, not pavement, but indication that is city right away. So,
Thank you, Counselor.
Thanks, Your Honor. I should have
Oh, go ahead,
mentioned
City
this.
Manager. You have something? Okay. So now, we're going to recess to executive session to discuss real property transactions in accordance with ORS 192660, subparagraph 2, subparagraph E. The City Council will now, we just read that, representatives of the news media and designated staff and other persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other participants must exit. Online audience members will be moved into a waiting room. When the council returns to open session, staff will readmit those remaining in the waiting room to rejoin the meeting. In-person audience members must leave the council chambers and wait in the hallway. When the council returns to open session, staff will open the doors and you can rejoin the meeting. Again, representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on the deliberations during the executive session, except to state general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions will be made at the executive sessions. I will now recess the executive session at time 7:36 p.m. You can let folks back. Matt, you can let folks back in now. Is he back there? Oh, what happened?
Have the public all left?
Probably.
So are we back in open session now?
We're back in open session.
Okay. I make a motion to authorize staff to negotiate the potential purchase of a property in the city of Albany.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda, next meeting dates are, well, first, Sean, we haven't closed the loop on the fluoridation issue. What can I do?
So on the water fluoridation issue, that decision was made in 1968 by an ordinance. So if there's going to be a change to the law, then it will have to be amended by another ordinance. So we would have to go through that procedure where the ordinance would be read a first time and then a second time in title only and then be voted on that way. So it's a little more formal of a process. If we're going to do that, we would have to advertise it. We'd have it on the agenda as an item. If we're not going to do anything, then we don't need to have another hearing or anything like that. So
Nothing?
I agree.
Okay.
If we're not going to do anything, let's just not do anything.
Okay.
Just keep our ears open
Right.
for more news,
Okay.
more data.
Next meeting will be Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 4 p.m. for our work session. And then on Wednesday, May 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And there'll be a special presentation by two very bright young ladies that won the I Were the Mayor contest. Michaela Chaffins is going to present her speech or her essay. And Brenly Washburn is going to tell us about her poster. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Meeting's adjourned.